guys, Rhonda here, RK3 Designs, and today we're gonna do a finish for an actual customer of mine, and this is her actual countertop with a backsplash. And I have the backsplash bumped up against the countertop. We're gonna pour this all as one piece, and then that way when we get ready to install it, all we have to do is lift up the backsplash, and we're gonna have a very cohesive pattern all the way through. So I'm starting off with Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy, and I tinted it with Aluminolite white dye. I love this dye. It's non-yellowing. It is a fabulous product. A little bit goes a long way. I mixed up my product, and we're gonna pour it out. I'm gonna save a little bit for my backsplash. Come around the front. And then pour the rest out. All right, so when I pour, I mixed up the Stone Coat countertop for 2 minutes. And then when I scrape my bucket, I scrape and put all of my excess that I scraped from the side in the middle. If I scrape it and put it out here and I didn't mix it thoroughly on the edges, it's gonna cause me some sticky spots. So I wanna make sure I empty that bucket out there in the middle. And I'm gonna take my trial and I'm gonna mix it up one more time. So that's really gonna ensure that I get my product mixed up very well. And then I'll trial it out. I'm gonna go down the middle first. I prepped my board with Behr paint and primer in one. 2 coats, sanded lightly in between the coats. We also bondoed our edges so that we'll have nice smooth edges. As I trial the material, I want to make sure that I really get enough product on those edges, so I leave just a little bit of the trial hanging over, and it'll push that product off to the side. Spread it out evenly. Now this product is self-leveling, so it is going to level out. You want to make sure your surface is level. If not, your pattern will run towards whichever way your surface is leaning. All right, so I'm going to come with my hands and I'm going to do the backsplash just a little bit easier. I like to take my hands, and that way I can really get the edges. Now we have the board, my backsplash, up against the back of the countertop, and after we do our pattern, we'll pull the board, the backsplash, away so that it doesn't stick while it's drying. But right now I do want it pretty close so that when I'm doing the pattern, all the veins will match up. So I'm going to use my hands and I'm going to dress these edges. I want to help that epoxy flow over those edges so that I don't get any surface tension as it flows down. If you'll just run your hand along there and help that epoxy to flow, you'll get nice even edges. Now you can choose to chop with a chop brush, and that'll help you with your trial lines. But since this is such a small surface, I really do like to use my hands. Now I'll be going back periodically and pulling these drips from underneath my countertop. Okay, so I've trialed it all out and got my edges, and then I'm going to torch it. Okay, so the reason I painted my base with Behr Paint and Primer in One in natural gray instead of a stark white, because I know when we start adding colors, and I know that this finish is gonna have different tones of grays, it's gonna tint my epoxy. So when my epoxy rolls over these edges, that's the thinnest part of the project that's gonna have the least amount of epoxy. So as that epoxy flows over, I don't wanna see stark white edges. So that's why I tinted it the gray, because it's gonna blend in with the grays that I use in the finish. So let's get started with adding some color. So I know from talking with my customer that she wants gray striations, she wants multi-colors of grays, and she still wants quite a bit of the white to be showing through. So knowing all this, we're gonna just start randomly laying down some colors, all in a striated form, and we'll tilt a little bit just to get a little bit of movement, make it look a little more natural, and then we're gonna add some color. All right, so I'm starting off with smoke gray. I've got 3 different grays here. I've got smoke gray, granite, and charcoal gray. I'd like to start with my middle tone first. That way I know if I want to go lighter or I want to go darker, I have that choice. So I usually start with my mid-tone, and that would be this gray. So I'm just going to literally start adding. And I just kind of want to see if this is the color I'm thinking. It is. All right, so I'm just going to start adding some color. Sucks to have short arms. Okay, then I'm going to come in a little bit with my charcoal gray. I want to be a little less on the charcoal gray because it's a little darker. Just randomly kind of put it on there. I can always add more. Get my edges. Get my front edges. All right, then I'm gonna come in with my granite. And not a lot. This is just a little more of a neutral granite. And then some white. Even though I have a white base tint, if you put some white on top, it actually gives you some depth and it really looks cool. So, not a lot. There. All right. I'm going to start off with a thicker stick. Instead of the little tiny popsicle stick, I'm a little bit thicker. My lines will be a little thicker. I can come back in later and put some fine lines with my popsicle stick. Everything I'm doing is in a striated pattern. I'm going to get my edges. Now I really like how these colors will fall down our edge and make it look very natural. Oops, get that back. And pick up some, you can also pick up some of your drippings and bring them back into the edges, and it'll really make those edges look natural as all that flows down. Now you can also use other tools to get you a little bit faster pattern. Okay, so I pulled out my arsenal of supplies, and they're super expensive. A cat pooper scooper and a Bondo spreader that I have cut to make teeth. This is going to make my job so much easier and so much faster. If you do decide to go with this high dollar piece of equipment, make sure it's got the little teeth here. So here we go. I'm just going to take it back and forth, push it over those edges so that that color flows. Right now, I'm only trying to get that color spread out in a really neat pattern. Now, you'll also notice as we drag that color through the epoxy, it's going to start mixing and those colors are going to kind of come back up to the top. All right, so I'm going to go same thing here. I'm going to take my Bondo spreader since it's a little bit smaller and easier to work with. And I'm going to come in here and do my backsplash. All right. This is a really good tool to do wood grain as well. All right, looking good. I like these colors and I really like how it's flowing over the edges. I'm getting some natural looking edges. Now, everything that I'm doing in straight lines, in striation, okay? So that's the main thing that I want to remember when I'm doing this. Okay, now, I know from talking to my customer that she wants some turquoise, which makes her my favorite customer because I love turquoise. My favorite two colors to go to on when I'm doing turquoise, I like to add two colors. It adds depth. So I'm going to go in with the Lagoon, and then I'm going to come back over it or next to it with Seaside. I love Lagoon. All right. Now this, I want to come in with a little smaller stick because I want to be very strategic. She didn't want a lot of turquoise, so she wanted just a tiny bit. So I'm going to just randomly bring in some very thin lines, very small, have them go over the edge. I can always add more. All right, so as I add these colors, I know that I'm going to be putting a sink, a pretty good size sink, in the middle of this countertop. So if you're not sure about your colors and you're not sure this is really the way you want to go, if you start in the middle and as you start, when you have paint on your stick, if you see that paint start to drip and get a really big drip like it's doing right now, I know that if I go in right there and drag, I now have a very large blob there. So I'm going to have to go work that out. As opposed getting it on my stick, and as I start to lay it down, I'm moving my hands. Okay, so I don't get such a large blob. But I'm gonna practice in the middle because I know there's gonna be a sink here and I know we're gonna cut that out. So if I really wanted to check my colors, make sure that those colors are what I wanted to use, I would start in the middle, knowing I'm gonna get to cut it out anyway. So it's kind of your little playground here. Okay, so I really like those colors. I really like how this is starting to flow out a little bit. And the reason I like that is because I know I'm gonna come back in with another color, and then as I drag that, those two colors will kind of blend. Get a little color on the edge. All right. And now I'm gonna go bring those colors into my backsplash. Oh, there we go. Good. I can bring a little bit of color on those edges. All right. I really like that. Okay. Step back, look at your project from a distance. I'm noticing here I'm getting a little bit more turquoise on this side, but I didn't pay attention to that until I stood back and looked at the whole piece. So make sure you kind of step back, look at your whole piece, see where your eye hits first, And that's the part that you kind of want to address. So I know I need a little bit more turquoise on this side. All right. Okay, I like that. Now I'm going to come back in with Seaside. Seaside is going to give my turquoise some depth. It's going to give almost like shadowing. It's a little bit lighter color. So I'm going to come in just a little bit. I don't want to go crazy with it. I just want it to be a little accent. Starting in the middle. Make sure I kind of like how they're flowing together. I do. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Of course I like it. It's turquoise. I was super happy when she told me after she saw the sample piece. She said, I wanted to add some turquoise. I said, that's my kind of woman. Okay. I love this. All right, so this little piece here, I really like how that's kind of starting to form a pretty little pattern there. And kind of go through it a little bit. And you can definitely get you some drips here and use that in your pattern. You can bring those drips in. That's one more level of color coming through. You got to give your epoxy also, give it time to flow. Give it time to react. All right, I like that. Okay, well, I think we're ready to heat it up a little bit. Break this up a little bit, this coloring. Okay, and we're gonna get ready to start tilting. See, I really like to get these drips here on my edges. Make those edges look really pretty. When you walk into the kitchen or your bathroom, the first thing you see are your edges. So don't neglect those edges. If anybody has taken our classes and know my husband, you learn to always get your edges. All right, okay, so I think I'm gonna bring some color right in the middle of that. All right, good. Anytime you pick up epoxy and you add it back into your pattern, let's say you have a vein and you pick up epoxy, now you're putting epoxy down, keep in mind, that vein is now going to spread open because your epoxy is trying to level out. So if you're trying to keep a vein very thin and you don't want it to spread out, don't put epoxy right through the middle because it is going to spread out. But if you want that vein to kind of move out, look natural, give it a little bit more natural movement, you can add epoxy back into that vein. So this is what I did on a couple of them. So, all right, so I'm going to heat this up. And we are going to get ready to tilt it just a little bit. Now, if you don't have the ability to tilt, you can use your heat gun or you can use your torch to move that epoxy around and get you some really neat movement. But I'm going to solicit Kenny to come over here and help me. It's kind of cool here in my shop, so I'm really heating this up to get some movement. Actually, we'll go up and down. So you go up and I'll go down first.
Okay, ready?
Ready? Okay. So we're going to tilt it this way. get it to move just a little bit. Ever so slowly. I don't want a lot of movement in this pattern. Okay, let's go to the back. Watch it. All right, so if there's pieces I want to move a little faster than other pieces, then I'll just heat it up. And get some movement that way. Okay, let's go the other way. Okay.
Come this way, just look.
Okay, so we're going to do the same thing to the backsplash. We're going to tilt it left. I'm not trying to get a lot of movement. I want just a little bit to make it look natural. And we'll go back the other way. All right, go up high. And the other way. Is it moving? And I'm going to come get these drips off here. Okay. Okay, so we finished tilting and I'm loving it. I'm loving how the epoxy is just starting to flow out. It kind of makes its own pattern. You have to let that epoxy set up a little bit and kind of show you the direction that it's going. And I am really, really liking this. It's been about probably 15 minutes, I guess, since we poured, and I'm loving it. I'm loving the edges, how the pattern colors on the edge are starting to flow over and really make a very, very pretty edge, very natural looking. I think this is perfect. I think I'm gonna stop. I have to stop because it's for a customer. And I hope you like this video, guys. This is very simple, very classic, very recreatable, and can be used throughout your house. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, hit the bell to subscribe to our channel, and leave me some comments. Maybe tell me where you would go with this. Would you have used turquoise? Maybe another color? Let me know. I really do enjoy your feedback. Until next time, don't be scared, move forward, and be creative.